Hey guys, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that we're starting a new push for subscriptions here on Human Events Daily. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you hit subscribe, you download it, and you share it with 5 of your friends. Make sure they're all going and downloading as well, because we need to get the signal out as much as possible. Look, we've done so much over the past couple of years since this show started, and we're only going to do so much more. Let's get it.
Where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. You know, we have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, folks, welcome back to Human Events. And as we know, every day, more of our personal information ends up online than most people realize. Your name, your home address, your phone number, your family members, old addresses, email addresses, even information from past data breaches is often just a few clicks away. Hundreds of data broker websites collect and publish that information, and unless you take action, it stays there. Someone with bad intentions can use those details to piece together where you live, who you're related to, and other personal information. If you're politically active, work in the media, or simply value your family's privacy, it's worth taking seriously. That's where Patriot Protect comes in. Patriot Protect works to remove your personal information from data broker websites before the wrong people can use it. Instead of waiting until after you become a victim, they help make you much harder to find in the first place. A single phone scam or identity theft incident can cost thousands of dollars. Protecting yourself is a lot less expensive. Go to patriot-protect.com/POSO, patriot-protect.com/POSO. Use promo code POSO to save 15% and take control of your privacy, add some digital camouflage to your life, and make yourself much harder to find online. All right, folks, we just played that harrowing audio of Abdul al-Sayed, who's running for Senate in Michigan. And I needed to kind of needed a palate cleanser. All right, you're going to bring the positive vibes back up a little bit. So let's talk about another candidate who's running for office in Wisconsin. He's up on the ballot today. Here's a video he and his darling wife just put out.
We're finally here, August 11th, for the big election this Tuesday. You know, it's really been the honor of a lifetime to go all around the district and earn the support of so many great Wisconsinites.
We have been everywhere in the district as a family together. Parades, dairy breakfasts, traveling in negative 20-degree weather. Me, 9 months pregnant on rollerblades, going down parade routes.
The most exciting thing by far that's happened on the campaign trail is Evita and I welcomed our new daughter into this world. I really do want to take the moment to thank all of the supporters out there. Thank you so much for believing in me, for trusting me with your vote. And it's the final ask. Please get out and vote Alfonso for Congress.
Well, and we got him right here. It's Michael Alfonso and Evita Duffy Alfonso. Guys, how are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having us on.
I feel like I'm on a roller coaster because we just broke that story of the Michigan Senate candidate essentially victim blaming the Nashville Christian school, the massacre, which took place in 2023, on conservatives, on Christians for passing laws. And this is the guy who's running for Senate in Michigan. Now, you guys over there in Wisconsin, we'll see what happens later today with your governor race. But you got another real doozy, a real winner there with Francesca Hong. And then I see a video that you guys put out. I'm like, this is night and day. What is going on?
Yeah, my grandparents came to this country from communist Cuba. So when I hear these candidates across the country, especially in the swing states in the Midwest, talking about socialism, I take it personally. It's really important to have that alternative to this communist ideology, having some young, patriotic people who are out there showing that you can actually go places and still love your country.
I mean, it's really as simple as that. Now, Michael, I know you guys are on the campaign trail. You're running around a lot. I understand you guys you did mass this morning. I'm sure you hit the polls. I'm sure you're going to be out there again. What's the mood? What's the vibe?
It feels great. You never know what's going to happen in a low turnout primary because You don't know whose people are going to show up, but the people I've been talking to, even at our little local diner, the Blue Willow in Wausau, Wisconsin, people are excited to get out there and vote and give President Trump another 2 years in office. Because make no mistake, if these Democrats get into office, nothing will happen for the next 2 years.
And Jack, something that Michael and I talk about a lot when we're dealing with these DSA crazy lunatic candidates is if we're going to bring back young people, because these candidates are winning because they're winning young people, the messenger matters. And that's why I think Michael's race is so important. He is able to represent a different idea for Generation Z. He's able to win them back over, offer a different perspective on what America is and what it means and what it can be.
I mean, it's so simple, and I love what you guys are doing. And I would say, you know, and I said to somebody recently this week, it's what you guys are doing is you're walking in the path of Charlie Kirk. And what I mean by that is Charlie's agenda was the opposite of the sort of DSA, tear everything down, Mandami, El Sayed, Francesca Hong agenda of destroy the society and tear it all apart. What Charlie always talked about was, you know, as obviously he said, get married, have kids, which obviously you guys have done during the campaign. So you took that quite literally, by the way. And it's just, I think, to me, showing Gen Z that there is another path, and it may perhaps be a path that requires a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, obviously a lot. I'm not taking anything away from Evita there, but not just a little work, more than a little. But it's ultimately better. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is why I think it's so important out in the world for young people to see people like Evita and I, and really just assess who seems happier, Evita and I or Abdul Saeed or Francesca Hong, who has claimed many times that she has mental illness and anxiety from white people at Culver's. This is a stark contrast. We offer the alternative. We're saying, look, the traditional values, get married young, have kids young. This is the path to happiness, not this oppressor versus oppressed mentality where you hate everyone and everything.
Look, it's really as simple as that. Evita, you're a young mom. You've had a kid during the campaign. I can't even imagine that. And you went you went from you were, I think, roller skating in that video, like while pregnant, and you're roller skating, and then suddenly you have the baby, and you're like right back on the trail. You haven't skipped a beat. Obviously, you come from a big family, but just what is it like to go through all that and sort of be living in the public eye?
Less than a week postpartum, Jack, I was back on the campaign trail. I mean, this is a family affair. All our baby has known is campaigning thus far, and we just bring her along. I love the phrase, right? You just do things. Like, you can't just do things. Like, you don't. Parenthood, motherhood doesn't constrain you or constrict you in the way that I think a lot of feminists will like to claim. So I am out here beside my husband 100%, and it's been beautiful. It's been a joy, and it's been motivating to see what's happening with Francesca Hong and so many of these DSA candidates, Jack, because they don't just want to bring about equity, which is, of course, equitable suffering. They hate Halloween. They hate fireworks. They hate our society. They hate our way of life. So to me, this is a civilizational run. This is not just about Michael and Michael's race. We want to run to fix our country, to save our country, bring it back from the brink. Because I just want to say this, Jack, the radicals that are running right now, Francesca Hong has a lot of pushback from the establishment in Wisconsin because they know she's going to be a difficult candidate to actually make through the general because she's so radical in a swing state like Wisconsin. But they are perfectly fine with those radicals in California. They want to push for as far left as they can when they can get away with it. This is where the base of the Democratic Party is. This is actually what the majority of Democrats think. And so I think we have to be really clear-eyed about that. Francesca Hong isn't the fringe. She actually is the base. She actually is the reality of what the Democratic Party has become, which is communist.
Well, and Michael, to kind of pull that in, you're there, you're in the district, you're born and raised in the district. How have these ideas and these statements, and obviously they've been getting a lot of press. I've been doing my part to make sure that they get exposed with Francesca Hong and now El Sayed. Are people hearing when you're going out to the diner, when you're going out to these parades? Are people responding back to you saying, "Oh my gosh, I've heard this stuff"? Is it permeating? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes, it is. And I mean, the scary thing is that the left is actually sort of for this. They see nothing wrong with it. But the people on the right and here in the 7th district were very, very conservative. They're alarmed. They're more than excited to go volunteer at parades, anything they can do to stop this movement of communism. But I really think the key is winning the young people. That's where this movement is taking hold. And, we might fight it back this election, but if we don't win those young people in 5, 10, 20 years, the country is still massively in danger.
And it's not just, winning them back by telling them how bad the reality of the world will be if Francesca Hong and Abdul are in charge, but it's also delivering for young people because they feel despair. Only desperate, unhappy people vote for Francesca Hong or AOC or Bernie Sanders. You need to deliver the American dream for young people. That's the Trump agenda. That's America first. That's MAGA. We have to deliver if we actually want to win them back.
Look, and I said this as well, and you guys have been excellent Gen Z whisperers for me on the program as well, because I just start from a position of when it comes to Gen Z, when it comes to any generation, right, or just people in general, that if you want to learn what's going on, the first thing you have to do is listen and not lecture. And it sounds like that's exactly the way that you guys have approached this race.
Yeah, everything I hear from young people is, how am I going to afford a home? And how am I going to have a job that supports a family? Now, the left has that really sexy pitch of, we'll give it all to you for free. My family from communist Cuba and Evita's family from Spain, who also dealt with a communist problem, we know what the cost of free is. It's the cost of your country. And telling young people that, yeah, the solution isn't great. We need to cut government spending and we need to encourage businesses to grow. It's not quick. It's not an easy answer, but it's the only answer to save the country.
No, it's really as simple as that, guys. I know you got to get back out there on the trail. I hope it's not as warm out there as it is right here. But tell people where they can go to get more information and where to sign up to vote.
Alfonso4Wisconsin.com. You can find out everything right there.
And we'll accept prayers because today is the election. So if you have prayers, send them our way.
I'm sending them your way. I woke up thinking of you guys, praying for you guys. God bless. And I'm sure the Lord will work his will. Jack Posobiec, right back here, Real America's Voice, Human Events Daily. This is what happens when the fourth turning meets fifth generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
President Trump responds to Iran's new demands, the regime asking for compensation for damages in order to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The president responding with his own, citing American soldiers hurt or killed, as well as Iranian protesters.
Let's start with the news of the executive order itself, Monica, because it's significant. Basically overhauling the federal recommendations, the guidelines now for childhood vaccine schedules. And this is something that the president has really been previewing since almost his first day in the second term.
This does, in effect, upend the childhood vaccine schedule, and it comes from President Trump and several others in this event just now, making claims without evidence, continuing to link autism potentially with childhood vaccines.
Wisconsin's progressive socialist frontrunner is now facing a growing challenge from within her own party and learning even the left has its limits. Francesca Hong, a card-carrying member of the Democratic Socialists of America.
All I know is who I don't support.
Okay, tell us.
Viet Cong.
Yeah. Communist piece of shit.
All right, as we look ahead to the map, 7 Democrats do appear on the ballot, including Joel Brennan and Kelda Roys, but all the attention now is on these two. As results come in tomorrow night, we'll be closely watching how does David Crowley perform in Milwaukee County, how does Francesca Hong perform in Dane County, and who does best outstate as these results come in this chaotic Democratic primary for governor.
Thank you, Donald Trump, for continuing to talk about me, for keeping me at the top of your mind. I hope that you learn how to say my name appropriately. And the one thing he did say is he called me a lovely gentleman, which is kind of weird. It's in keeping with how he feels about Mamdani and others. I don't really know what his fetish is, but we'll have to figure it out.
Maybe you should go visit him in the Oval Office and find out, or talk to Mamdani. You know,
I think what he's afraid of is that I'm not afraid of him, and he knows it.
Yeah.
So, people like that have a sense of people who are willing to stand up to him, which is why he's trying to preempt it now. So, Donnie, if you're watching, I've got bigger hands than you. I've got a better agenda than you. I'm going to beat your guy, and I'm looking forward to reminding you of that for 2 years when I'm in the U.S. Senate.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily. We're here live on Real America's Voice. Today is August 11th, 2026, Anno Domini. Well, anti-ICE candidate Abdul El-Sayed is now facing fresh scrutiny after winning the Michigan Democrat primary. And we here at Human Events have an exclusive audio that you may have never heard before and may have never heard something like this. I just listened to it myself a few minutes before the program, and this is horrific. This is horrible stuff. And folks, let's go back to that day in March of 2023. The Nashville Christian Massacre. William Kinney, 9. Evelyn Deckus, 9. Haley Scruggs, 9. Catherine Kuntz, 60. Cynthia Peak, 61. Mike Hill, 61. Teachers and staff who tried to save the kids. Heroic officers who stopped Audrey Hale as she walked through the school and mowed them all down. Now, Audrey Hale has now been in hell for 1,233 days. But here's what Abdul El-Sayed had to say right after that.
Another elementary school got shot up this week. This time, it was a Christian private school in Tennessee where a shooter killed 3 adults and 3 children, all under 9 years old. Rather than the perpetual problem of unfettered access to guns, right-wing media have chosen to concentrate on the shooter, a former student at the school who identified as trans, arguing that the attack was some kind of broader attack in an escalating battle between trans people and Christians. Look, y'all, I'm Muslim. I know what happens when people essentialize everyone with a particular identity based on the actions of one individual who happens to identify that way. And that's a dangerous brew. Because the other thing that happened this week is that the Republicans in the legislature of the state of Kentucky forced through a draconian set of anti-trans laws, overriding the veto of their Democratic governor. And all that's going to do is rob thousands of people of basic civil rights. The epidemic of gun violence in this country has nothing to do with trans people. It has everything to do with the unfettered access to guns. Considering the last story I told you about, imagine what America might be if we took access to healthcare as seriously as some people take access to guns. If I could tweak one thing about the Constitution, it would be 2 words in the Second Amendment, from the right to bear arms to the right to have healthcare. Guns take a lot of lives in America. Healthcare saves them. That's it for today. On your way out, don't forget to rate and review. It really does go a long way.
I'm not really sure how to process that. I'm just here to report that that's what he said. He said that the epidemic of violence has nothing to do with trans people. He said that the fact that it was a trans shooter who was shooting up a Christian school had nothing to do with the fact that the individual was trans. Then he blamed it on the anti-trans laws that he claims are anti-trans, or actually just pro-child. Children are dead, by the way, Abdul. Christian children are dead. Funny how you don't seem to care that much when it's Christian children, Abdul. He then says that the only answer, of course, is that the Second Amendment should be rescinded. That's your candidate, Michigan. That's your candidate for Senate. A guy who clearly hates Christians, a guy who covers up for trans violence, and a guy who wants to take your guns away. You heard it first here, Human Events Daily.
You talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, who's done a great job.
All right, folks, Jack Soak, we're back here, Human Events Daily. Folks, if you are a homeowner like me, this is something you got to hear. The FBI has been warning about a growing type of real estate fraud called title theft, and your home equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals can forge your signature on a single document, use a fake notary stamp, and file it with the county. Just like that, on paper, they own your home. Using your ownership, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property. And you may not know anything happened until foreclosure or collection notices start showing up in the mail. That's why I partnered with Home Title Lock. So you can protect your equity and find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code POSO at HometitleLock.com and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That includes 24/7 monitoring of your title records, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud occurs, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code POSO. All right, guys, and I'm just reeling. I'm absolutely reeling from this audio. And do we, guys? Do we have that clip? Can we pull that clip up again? Because I think we need to play it again. Do we have it set up? All right. Well, let's get Katie Zachariah in here from spokeswoman of True Social. Katie, thank you once again for joining the program.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
So, Katie, we just broke the exclusive first time anyone has heard this outside of a podcast. I guess he had that nobody listened to, where Abdul al-Sayed, and gosh, I have no idea what the Michigan Republican Party is doing. All you have to do is go to the podcast and start listening to it, folks. I mean, these people are paid to do this. I have no idea why they're just not doing their jobs, but we here at Human Events Daily will do it for them. Because he started victim blaming of Christians and conservatives for the Nashville Christian massacre when they shot up the Christian school, killing children, little girls, little boy, teachers, staff. And he blamed it on conservatives who passed anti-trans laws. And then he said, school shootings are not a trans problem. School shootings are a gun problem. And he called for the repeal of the Second Amendment. Katie, what does it mean that a guy like that is now running for Senate, one of the most prominent seats in our entire country? This is the person the Democrats have chosen.
Well, it should be no surprise. I know he doesn't identify as a Democrat Socialist of America candidate, but they are unseating and want to get rid of our entire Constitution. And I just want to go back to that Nashville shooting, Jack. I have friends in Franklin, Tennessee, who had friends who lost a child, and for him to actually take away all of the blame of this person and blame it on guns is exactly what the left has been doing all along, right? They don't want to actually hold people accountable for what they've done. They want to blame the United States Constitution. They want to blame our Second Amendment rights and what has been enshrined, which is, by the way, our biggest protection against communism. You know what they say, you can vote your way into communism, but you have to shoot your way out. And I know that is somewhat controversial, but having lived in China, and I know you as well, that once you get into a situation, they want to take your guns away because that is then your only way to fight back.
And Katie, you're exactly right, because Chairman Mao, of course, his most famous quote is that political power grows from the barrel of a gun. Chairman Mao then banned guns for anyone but the CCP and the Red Army. We do, Katie, and I just want to play this clip for you again because this needs to be played over and over. I really implore the Michigan Republicans to please make sure everyone hears this clip from his podcast.
The Republicans in the legislature of the state of Kentucky forced through a draconian set of anti-trans laws, overriding the veto of their Democratic governor. And all that's going to do is rob thousands of people of basic civil rights. The epidemic of gun violence in this country has nothing to do with trans people. It has everything to do with the unfettered access to guns.
And there it is, Katie. Just it's unbelievable. It's the way that he doesn't even seem upset. To me, it doesn't even sound upset.
No, of course he's not, Jack. He what he's doing, though, is what he's been told to do, which was what Gavin Newsom's doing by going out there and campaigning for al-Sayed. They are just parroting what is an infiltration of our entire country. And you've been talking about this for a lot longer than most people, Jack, that this has been a long infiltration, as they say, the long march through the institutions, right? First they target education, and then they target the media, and now they're targeting civics and government, right? And And soon we will all be wondering why we're living under what could be the equivalent of really a communist dictatorship. Look at what happened with New York. It starts with the school systems. This is why, and I want to go back to Charlie Kirk. This is why Charlie Kirk started Turning Point, to be a turning point for the agenda of the radical left, the radical socialist. Jack, this is what you talk about all the time, and what is now becoming communism, because they know that starts with the youth. That's what Mao knew. That's what Lenin knew. That's what Gramsci knew. All of the big founders and original communists and Marxist leaders knew and have known that it starts with the youth. And so what he's doing is he's targeting our foundational and fundamental constitutional rights, as I said before, so we can't defend ourselves. It should come as no shock.
Well, and it's very clear that his agenda for a long time. I mean, these are comments from years ago. I mean, it wasn't actually that long ago. It was 3 years ago, 1,233 days exactly, by the way, because we do keep track of that around here. And this is something where it shouldn't come as any surprise that he's hanging out with the likes of Hassan Piker. And for people who want to talk about the crazy stuff Hassan has said, look, at the end of the day, this is a guy who has condoned violence. It always comes back to violence, and you need to stick it right there. He has also condoned rape. Right. He has said that the white women should be raped by migrants. He has said that he supports violence. He's come out in support of Luigi Maggioni. He is someone who has been very glib when talking about the murder of Charlie Kirk, someone who he shared a stage with many times, at least once significantly at Politicon. And he's someone who obviously he made this crazy comment about 9/11. And so, yes, actually, all of those things do matter, because when other acts of violence happen in our country, when our children are being killed, we need leaders who are willing to stand up and say what is going wrong. We don't need leaders who stand up and blame the victims, blame their families, blame Christians, blame conservatives, blame the right wing or whatever it is, because it wasn't the right wing that was mowing down children in a Nashville Christian school. It was a transgender psychopath named Audrey Hale. That's who did that. And he didn't have any problem with that. He wanted to make sure that nobody said anything. Katie, we're coming up on a quick break. But I want to get your response right after that, right here back here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many.
All right, folks. Jack Posobiec, we are back live here, Human Events Daily. In a world that's constantly changing, some things never should. Faith, family, freedom, and the values you choose to live by. Even your wireless provider can reflect those values. That's what Patriot Mobile has stood for more than 12 years. They serve Americans who want their dollars supporting the Christian conservative movement and organizations defending faith, family, and freedom. Making the switch is simple. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade to a new device. Their 100% U.S.-based customer support team can have you connected in minutes. If you're still paying off your current phone, they can even help you with a contract buyout. Patriot Mobile also gives you premium priority access across all 3 major U.S. networks, so you get dependable nationwide coverage without compromising your principles. If it matters who you trust with your service and where your money goes, it's time for all Patriots to make the switch. So every Patriot, within the sound of my voice, run, don't walk to patriotmobile.com/POSO or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code POSO to get a free month of service. That's patriotmobile.com/POSO or call 972-PATRIOT. Make the switch today. All right, we're on with Katie Zachariah. Katie, that we got caught off by the merciless clock in the last segment, and I just wanted to get your response. Of course, we're talking about these horrific comments that Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed made in the wake of the Nashville Christian massacre.
Well, I was only going to add to your complete takedown of Hassan Piker that I find it strange that you and I probably, for the first time in our lives, agree with James Carville, where he said, there is no political party that I will be in is if Hassan Piker is part of it. And so someone's going to have to go out of the Democrat race, and it's likely going to be Hassan because Carville, at least for now, still runs it, Jack.
No, that's exactly right. And you take someone like this, you put him in front of voters, and then you start adding in not just the because of course they were playing this game of, oh, well, those were his comments, those weren't my comments. Well, guess what? We found your comments, Abdul. It actually wasn't that hard. We scratched the surface of just one little click away from pulling up. Well, let's see what he said. Oh, he did a podcast about the Nashville Christian shooting. Let's see what he said. And I was horrified. It's wow. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. I'm honestly not surprised because when you see these people coming from a mile away, it is so obvious the violence. You could see the resentment. You could see the anger. They are seething with it. They are teeming with it. It's who they are. It is just who they are. And I want to get in now. We got Dan O'Donnell up. He's live in Wisconsin. I want to bring him up because he's on the ground. Dan, how are you?
Fantastic, Jack. How you doing?
So Dan, if I can, I mean, I know you've got Francesca Hong, and she's a real doozy right now, and you've got her, I guess, spiritual brother over there in Michigan. I'd love to get your reaction to these comments that he's made. We just broke the story a couple of minutes ago where he had made these comments in the wake of the Nashville Christian massacre, blaming it on the conservative movement, blaming it on what he calls anti-trans laws that were passed by Governor Lee down there. He blames it. He seems to blame everyone but the shooter. Seems to actually blames the gun, blames the Second Amendment, calls for the Second Amendment to be repealed, and does what the leftists always do. They blame everyone but the shooter themselves.
And this isn't particularly surprising because this is the same guy who said that he wanted to empathize with literal terrorists. He was asked at a town hall, okay, as a U.S. senator, how would you deal with the issue of terrorism? And he said, look, I'm a doctor, so I have to be an expert in pain. I have to know where people's pain comes from. And I'm going to apply that same level of empathy when it comes to dealing with terrorists. It's no surprise then that he would blame the people that he believes drove this trans shooter to commit unspeakable atrocities, just as he blames America to drive the 9/11 terrorists to commit unspeakable atrocities 25 years ago. Is it any real surprise that a trans terrorist, a mass shooter like Audrey Hale, would get the same treatment? This isn't just the far left, the Abdul El Sayeds or the Francesca Hongs, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party. I mean, I can remember, Jack, in the wake of 9/11, you had supposed moderate Democrats saying much the same thing. Well, we need to get into the minds of the people who just slaughtered thousands of innocent Americans and figure out a way to blame America first. Now it seems that these new radicals, these new leftists, just seem way more comfortable blaming everything about our culture, everything about our civilization, provided that they can weaponize that against their political enemies, conservative Christian Republicans.
And to destabilize us. And Katie, I know you kind of mentioned it before, but we ended up, kind of focusing more on the communism, as we do. This is the Jack Posobiec show, after all. But Katie, I wanted to ask you, just take the ideology out of it for a second, and just as a mom who's got 4 kids going to school. I know you've got 4 young kids. I've got 2 young kids. How does that make you feel when you hear someone like that who could potentially be in one of the most powerful offices in the world?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, if he's talking about empathy, it's the opposite, right? He's empathizing with who could be seen as the terrorist or the murderer, and he's not actually caring about the victims.
Terrorism. Yes, it's certainly terrorism.
It absolutely is. And so to actually, Jack, as I said earlier, we know a family or closely related to a family who did lose a kid in that shooting. And when my kids go to school, we have armed guards, and we're so grateful for that. I am grateful for him every single day, the guy who guards my kids' lives. Why, Jack? Because there is no more unspeakable pain. Like, there is no deeper pain than a parent could go through than losing their child. And for him to completely disregard the victims and victimize the perpetrator in this is exactly what he is about. So let all parents who are going to go out and vote in Michigan understand that the quality and the character of this man who would be your senator, if there is a school shooting in Michigan, he will side on the side of the shooter, not the children. He has shown that, Jack, by your exposure of this podcast. He is going to side on the side of the shooter. And so they need to go out and vote with that in mind, Jack.
Well, I take what you're saying, and I take what Dan is saying as well, and it really seems like that. Dan, what is going on here? Do you think it is, as Katie says, is it this empathy and enmeshed with a kind of resentment? Because, it's hard to explain exactly where it comes from. I've got some ideas, but you're there in Wisconsin, looking at this. Where does it start?
Well, I think it does start with envy. I think the concept of malignant envy and the idea that somehow American society has wronged you, somebody who you perceive yourself as doing all the right things, right? You got a post-college degree in, I don't know, medieval queer studies. Somehow you find yourself unemployable. So rather than looking inward and saying, hey, maybe I should have gone into STEM or something that would have gotten me a good job to pay off my student loans, you look outward. You envy those who have things that you don't. Benign envy is very good, right? I envy the fact that you've got such a great show, Jack. I say, you know what? I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to try to get a show like Jack. The production values are fantastic. You've got a great commanding voice. I'm going to try to do my best to do that. Malignant envy, which is where socialism comes in, says, no. Instead of raising myself up, instead of looking inward and saying, what can Dan O'Donnell do to be more like Jack? I would say, no, we need to take Jack down so that he is more like everybody else, that everybody else is like Jack, because society has done the rest of us wrong. We need to make everything level. When you understand that that's sort of the thought process, that preys on people's most basic insecurities instead of motivating, because envy can be an incredible motivator, right? You say, hey, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like President Trump. I want to do all of these great things because I want to have what they have and do what they do. That's fantastic. Socialism plays on what's easier. And that's this concept of malignant envy where it said, you know what? No, it's not you, it's society. We need to tear down society.
Makes me think of,
and American society is worst of all.
Of course, it makes me think of Cain and Abel, right? Cain, the first, the first child born to Adam and Eve, was envious. Although I would add, as a Catholic, I would say the first child born with original sin. So interesting theological concept there, perhaps. But Katie, we're just about last minute for you. But Katie, is that what it is? Is socialism all about tearing everyone down to that equal, that equal low?
Well, it's tearing everyone down in the subjugated class, right? This is the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. There is going to be a subjugated class, and that is not going to be everyone. But it's sold that we're going to equalize the playing field when really it's going to be a small group of elite versus the rest. Now, I want to build on that I think it actually, Jack, the breakdown began at the breakdown of the family. And that is also what communism likes to do, is break down the family.
That is exactly right. Katie Zachariah, thank you so much for joining us here. Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. Right back here, one more segment.
This the Jack Posobiec Appreciation Hour. I can say confidently, I think Josh Shapiro would be the vice presidential nominee if it wasn't for Jack Posobiec. And that is, I'm being honest.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec, we are back. We're now on with Dan O'Donnell. He's joining us. It's with the Dan O'Donnell Show. He's there in Wisconsin. He's broken a ton of stories in Wisconsin over the years because, unfortunately, there's been some harrowing things that have happened. There's been some great things, too, as well. But Dan has been there for all of it, and he joins us now to kind of, and I'd love to get a preview. I know you're going live, but I'd love if we could get a preview of what your read is on what's going to happen in the gubernatorial primary in Wisconsin today.
Well, as you know, the socialist Francesca Hong has just been dominating headlines with all of her old tweets. She wants to abolish Thanksgiving. She's apparently not too fond of Christmas or Valentine's Day or the 4th of July or really any holiday for that matter. She also wants to defund the police as a first step to abolishing police. Well, today's primary day, and of course, she's out talking to the media and said, well, those were just old hot takes. I originally went to school to be a sports writer, and I had some bad takes in my day. This is sort of like AOC over the weekend saying, well, woke one was nuts, but we're well past that. Clearly, though, she knows that she's going to win this primary. I mean, her lead opponent in it, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, he put out an internal poll last week that actually showed him down 22. Jack, why would you ever put out a poll that shows you trailing by 22 points? He tried to do some tortured logic saying, well, if the electorate was the exact same as 2018 and 2022 put together, and it's only informed voters that go to the polls, we're within like 2 or 3 points. Yeah, but right now you're still down 22. And in fact, just today, it was leaked to Politico that Hong's team is being replaced. National Democrats are essentially coming in and they're getting her a new comms team. They're getting her a new ground operation, essentially, which means A, they know that she's going to win this primary, and B, they know she's not ready for prime time because those weren't just hot takes. This was her being way too honest about what she believes. I can tell you, Jack, from covering her since she was first elected in the woke one era of 2020, she does believe all this stuff. Why has she struggled to walk back her desire to abolish Thanksgiving? Why can't she just say, yeah, that was kind of dumb. I don't really mean that. I like Thanksgiving. Because she doesn't. She doesn't particularly care for American civilization. Why has she been unable to walk back the video, the interview she did where she says, I'm a chef, and when we get rid of an order, we say we 86 it. Well, I think it's time to bleeping 86 Trump. It's because she believes this stuff. She believes the Hassan Piker nonsense, the Abdul El Said nonsense. She is a true blue believer in socialism, I guess true red believer in socialism. And that's why National Democrats are saying, hey, wait a second, we got to make sure once she's the nominee that normie voters in the ultimate swing state of Wisconsin don't learn what she actually believes because that makes her toxic. And sure enough, if you follow the betting odds and you look at that as sort of, okay, fine. It's one element. You look at polls, you look at what candidates do, you look at the odds. Tom Tiffany, the Republican here, since Hong became sort of the inevitable nominee, I'd say about a month ago, his odds have surged. Democrats were favored to win this governor's race pretty handily. Now he has a 62% chance of winning this race. And that's probably only going to go up once she clinches this nomination and once all of the old tweets and all of the legislation that she sponsored as a member of the state assembly comes out. Democrats are rightly worried about this. Even Bernie and AOC did not endorse her because I think they're concerned that if she gets shellacked in the general election, that's going to reflect very, very poorly on democratic socialism generally. Now, that said, if she wins this election, and it is very possible that she does, I think that portends doom for the Democratic Party long term because the DSA can then say, look, we're the future. We won in the ultimate swing state of Wisconsin. DSA candidates can win everywhere. We're going to primary every more moderate Dem. Even you saw in New York and Colorado, liberal Democrats lost primaries to DSA candidates this summer. I would expect that to accelerate in 2028 and beyond. And the party itself, I think, will be taken over by DSA members. If she wins or loses, clearly socialism is on the rise in the party. And Wisconsin, I think, is going to be the state to deliver it a significant setback. We're certainly ready for that fight, Jack.
So here's all right. So hold on. I have to pin you down on this. So you think that it sounds like you're saying she wins the primary but loses the general.
That's the general consensus. So Crowley, her lead opponent in this primary, actually dropped out of the race. About a month ago, he was polling at maybe 5% in a crowded primary. And At the exact moment he did and endorsed our Lieutenant Governor, Sarah Rodriguez, Rodriguez got embroiled in a massive campaign finance scandal in which she was telling everybody she had $1 million in cash on hand. Oops, she actually had 30,000 and nobody's quite sure where that money actually went. She had to drop out a week later. Instead of going with one of the candidates who was already in the race and opposing Hong, or just saying, look, okay, it'll be challenging, but Francesca can win a general election, the Democratic Party got Crowley back in the race. And our incumbent Democrat governor, Tony Evers, who decided not to run for a third term and hadn't endorsed in this race, the very next day gets back in. Crowley gets back in, and he suddenly got Evers' endorsement, and the entire Democratic Party is trying to make David Crowley the conquering hero. He's like Julius Caesar entering Rome. No, he's still not catching on because the party's base wants Hong. The Democratic Party doesn't do that if they think Hong is going to win the general election. They just don't. They've been trying to stop her. In fact, they were trying to unite the voters behind Rodriguez. That obviously didn't work. They switched to Crowley. You don't do that if you think your leading candidate, the candidate who has all the energy, who has all of the buzz, who clearly has captured the hearts and minds of your voter base, if you think that she can win a general election. Because the big problem, Jack, is she's going to bring out Republicans who haven't been turning out in non-Trump elections. Remember, we voted for Trump in Wisconsin in 2016 and 2024. In fact, technically in both years, Wisconsin was the state that, when added to his electoral total, put him over the 270 vote threshold. So we're like the ultimate swing state. But what's been happening is Democrats have been dominating in non-presidential races in the era of Trump because, and I quote from a study that was done maybe 6-7 months ago on Trump voters who don't turn out in state elections, they don't believe that what happens in our state capital matters like it does in Washington. Well, a communist taking over the state, that matters. That gets them out. And what I think Democrats are so afraid of is that this becomes a referendum not on Donald Trump, as midterm elections always are, a referendum on the incumbent president, but rather a referendum on socialism itself. Socialism is underwater by about 35 points here in Wisconsin. It's toxic. And frankly, so is she to a general election electorate. Oh, sure, she's popular among the Democrat base, but the Republican base and moderate voters, swing voters, they're going to turn out in droves, it's believed, to vote against her. And more importantly, to vote against the spread of socialism across the country.
And this, of course, is the big question. Look, and I'll even say, and I haven't even said this publicly yet, but I've even had moderate Democrats reaching out to me saying, look, we're not for this stuff. And there are a lot of people who realize how damaging this is going to be to their party. Now, that being said, I have no interest whatsoever in helping the moderate Democrats because you know something, guys, this is the mess that you made yourself when you opened the door to this level of crazy. I called it out years ago and nobody wanted to listen. Dan, I know you got to run. I know you got your show coming up. Tell people where they can go to follow you and tune into the show.
At Dan O'Donnell Show across social media, Facebook, X, Instagram. You can check me out, News Talk 1130 WISN in Milwaukee, 1310 WIBA in Madison. And of course, I'm a good corporate guy, your iHeartRadio app.
Of course, Dan. Thanks so much, man. Come back soon. All right, folks. This is the episode that you want to share with friends. Get those comments of Syed everywhere out there. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.